have a very provocative presentation about to start with a gentleman named Matevž Klanjšek, who's going to speak to us about answering the question, is the ghost still in the shell?
Thank you. Okay, yeah, so I'll talk about creativity and technology, about how, creative technology, what it really is. So today, the term creative technology kind of defines advertising, right? So this conference, it's called CreateTech. Probably many of you identify yourself as creative technologists, and so Celtra, my company, is building a product that is creative technology platform. So the question really is, what is creative technology? Is this really something so cozy, so very clear as we imagine? Is creative technology an oxymoron? Is this something that really works? And this is the question I will want to answer, because we imagine that today that creativity and technology really work nicely together. That advertising is driven by this kind of a pair working together. But the question is that this really true? So for the sake of the argument, let's say, and it's a bit of a cliche, right? But let's say that creativity is from Venus and technology is from Mars. So creativity is all about beauty, poetry. Technology is kind of cold, measurable. So let's just for the sake of argument, let's play with that. Let's do this experiment. So creativity from Venus, technology from Mars, and we imagine that they're like this, right? They're a perfect couple, in love, like in this painting of Botticelli. But is this really the case? Is this really how it works? If we look at some of the numbers, if we look at some of the facts, we'll see that perhaps the picture is not so perfect. So here are some of the numbers, revenues of creative industry versus revenue of technology. So these numbers are not easy to kind of extract because we don't want to compare media spend. So media is not included in that. So it's just money that creative companies or creative agencies are making with their work, and technology companies with their. And as you can see, creative has been pretty flat in this century, whereas technology has been growing amazingly fast. So Mars is really kind of beating Venus here. And even bigger contrast is where you compare, WPP, it's not necessarily just a creative company, but I think it's interesting to see that. So probably the biggest kind of accumulation of creatives, versus Google as the biggest technology company in advertising, both in advertising. And as you can see, there is a huge difference between the two. A lot of people on the WPP side, not so much revenue, exactly the other way around with Google. So in terms of business, in terms of making money, creativity and technology, or Venus and Mars, are really not working together that well. So there's a huge discrepancy. And perhaps on the creative side, we imagine that we work with technology, and that technology really helps us, and we are very much in love with technology, whereas technology is a bit indifferent. It seems like creativity needs technology more than technology needs creativity. Technology can scale, or Mars can scale without creativity, it seems, whereas Venus needs Mars. How did this happen, really? How did we get to that? So creativity used to define advertising. So back in the 70s, 80s, it was all about creativity. There's this story I hear a lot. Back in the 90s, in Cannes, for example, it was all about creativity. It was Festival of Creativity. Today, it's all about technology. It's just Google, Facebook, Celtra, for that matter, as well. So it's dominated by technology. So how did this happen? So back in 2000 or maybe a bit before, so end of 20th century, there was internet, and it had a huge promise. At the same time, TV audiences were aging, users were moving to internet, to digital. Technology industry was really, really small back then, but it had a huge, huge promise. A huge promise of a couple of things when it comes to advertising. So one was accountability. We all know this, old saying about 50% of wasted money in TV advertising and so on. So digital internet offered a really good alternative. So everything was measurable. You knew exactly where were you buying, where were you putting your money. It offered efficiency through targeting, the right message, the right time to the right person, and the profit as a consequence of that. So all of a sudden, we know exactly where our money is. We can measure everything. And the big promise of digital was really to reduce the waste. One of the biggest problems of advertising, the wastage. And all of a sudden, digital or Mars said, you can measure everything, you know everything, you can be really super, super efficient. And creative industry just embraced that. Brands embraced that. We were all happy. Everyone was happy. This was great. Technology, or Mars, had slightly different plan. So it was so easy for technology to just go and conquer. And this is exactly what happened. Digital scaled super fast, whereas TV was maybe growing slowly, digital was exploding. And from 20 years ago it was, or 15 years ago it was zero. Today is a quarter of all advertising, and it's in a few years it will be bigger than TV. And this is this is what Mars accomplished. The audio doesn't work, unfortunately. So let me just go back. So creative industry was just waiting for this to happen.
We come in peace. We come in peace. We come in peace.
They came in peace.
We come in peace. We come in peace.
And this is what happened. But let's go for a second back to happier times. Back in the 70s, it was an important year. In the 70s, the golden age of creativity started. So that was creative revolution. We all know the story of DDB reinventing advertising. It was a big deal. Before that, advertising was pretty boring. It was based on communicating USPs of the brands, of the products. But then in the 70s, something changed, something happened. Advertising became extremely, extremely creative. It became poetic. And these were really happy times. So this ad, which you all know.
I'd like to buy the world a home and furnish it with love.
Started this era.
Apple trees and honey bees and snow white turtle doves. I like to teach the world to sing with me. Perfect harmony, perfect harmony. I like to buy the world a home and keep it company. That's the real thing. I like to teach the world to sing with me. Today.
So what's so amazing or what's so special? Because today when we see this ad, we like it. It's, there's a bit of nostalgia, but it's, it's maybe it doesn't seem anything special. But it was back then, it was revolutionary. It changed advertising. It didn't really communicate what are the properties of the product. It didn't talk about taste, about, any of these properties. It was playing on emotions. And that was really revolutionary back then. So if advertising before was pretty much like that, just listing the properties of the product. Hopefully, consumers would memorize them, and when they wanted to purchase a product, they would do that based on that. So it was really a very rational thing. But with the creative revolution, it became emotional. So the stories we were telling were not about facts. It was about emotions. It was about a song. So we started singing songs back then, and it really worked. It was amazing. It changed advertising. But then this poetry today, in digital age, is replaced by this. So this is just a snapshot from Mode. So the ads that Coke is running today. As you can see, we're kind of back to where we were before Creative Revolution. So we are advertising and pricing. It's all kind of DR. And this is what happened with Mars conquering advertising space. We reduced wastage, but we also lost emotions. And this is how advertising looks today. It's, there's not much emotions left. What we're left with is a shell without a ghost. And when we think about that advertising, is it really so effective? Is it really so successful? Ad blocking is becoming one of the biggest issues. And the promise of digital was that this new advertising will work, that it will target the right users at the right time with the right message. So users shouldn't be blocking those ads. But the thing is that probably they're not blocking ads. They're blocking the shell because there's no ghost in this shell. And they just don't want this shell. They miss what advertising used to be. And at the same time, nobody's blocking Super Bowl. So nobody's ad blocking Super Bowl. We all like those ads. And there's a huge contrast between the sentiment on digital and the sentiment on TV with great ads. So what's the answer to that? Should we, say that digital doesn't work? Should we go back to, to TV and just start doing TV again? We need to be aware that technology did many, many great things. So technology that we have today, ad tech that we have today is amazing. It does many, many great things. So the solution is not to go back and say it doesn't work, users are blocking, or let's just figure out how to trick them so they will stop blocking. Maybe let's do native ads because they can't be blocked or things like that. The solution is really to bring back the ghost, to bring the best of both worlds together. So to have the emotional engagement of TV together with measurability and accountability of digital. This is what we need. We need digital, but we need to bring the best qualities of TVs to the digital. So one of the answers, or one of the options here that we strongly believe is the right one is mobile video. So mobile video is fantastic, but today how it's done, it's basically just taking TV ads, mostly transplanting them into mobile environment. And it doesn't work, so it needs to be designed for mobile. It needs to be designed for mobile user experience. And here are just a couple of examples. So we believe that obviously short-form vertical video is one of the answers here. It does work the way users want to consume content on mobile, but it does bring the visual, the emotional elements of TV. A couple of other examples. So this is the first campaign actually we did with Audi. So that was a 1 minute long TV commercial. just made it really shorter, snappier, easier to consume. And this kind of ads, there's fantastic reaction from consumers. We've seen improvements of up to 80% in terms of consumption and completion rates. So this stuff really works. Engagement is super high, but it really needs to be designed for mobile. Now, you'll ask yourself, so where's the song here? Because those ads are all without audio. They're all muted. There's no audio there because users don't want audio on their mobile devices. So what is this element of song that we appreciate so much in TV ads? So the poetics has changed, and the poetry of digital ages is different. So we are not singing songs anymore, but we are doing stuff like that. And this is what brings the poetry to digital. And just a couple of examples we built, we pitched, we didn't run those, but we believe that this is where advertising will be going with things like this. So really mixing user-generated content, memes with the branded content. So what we predict is a big return of creativity. So creativity is coming back to advertising big time. It's happening. It'll start working with the technology better, and we'll see more and more of that. I think it's not too late. I think we won't see only native ads or DR ads. I strongly believe that we'll start seeing much more creativity, much better content in the ads. But we need to focus on that. We need to focus on content. We need to focus on creativity, because this is really the strong point of creativity, bringing back the song. This is the only way to cope with technology.
I think these guys are very sick. What's happening to them? What's killing them? I think it must be my music.
So let's bring back the song. Let's bring back the ghost to the advertising. Thank you.